Goa, it has a rich culture and heritage background, and it's not just about the folk dances or the different communities, but it's also about our architecture, our town and country planning, our landscape, which has been affected or modified by various and centuries of dynasties and different colonizers. And also now, as we are part of India, the Indian influence too has come into Goa. And to keep alive the history, the background of what we have come from, we have the Goa Heritage Action Committee, who have organized this heritage festival that is kind of coming together to bring all sorts of our culture and heritage together in a showcase to display to Goans what exactly we were and what we have come from. So today with us we have Mr. Hari, who is an cultural enthusiast, who will be curating different walks and walking tours across Goa. And we also have Mr. Jack Sukhija, who is a member of the Goa Heritage Action Committee and a cultural enthusiast himself. So I welcome both of you all to the show. So to start off, what was the motivation behind having these sort of walking tours when you have a whole festival, you have a venue where everything will be taking place, but this will be going on alongside it since starting 8 a.m. So how exactly would this be taking place, and what was the motivation behind having walking tours?
So basically, what will happen during the walking tours is over 5 days we'll have a set of 20 walks, 4 walks per day. And the idea behind doing these walking tours or these walking expeditions is that you couldn't come to know a city or area better than when you walk on it. When you walk in it, you experience everything. And overall, there has been a lot of interest in people to know each bit of local history, and so we thought that we will try and put this segment together and have these walking tours.
To go back, this is not the first time it's happening. Back in April, Goa Heritage Action Group put together a walking festival. We didn't know what the response would be like, but we basically wanted residents of Panjim and around to come out and experience the city and learn a lot more about the city, because as people have grown up, they've forgotten there's so much history that is in Panjim. We basically wanted to come out, learn more and become ambassadors of the city. And we weren't sure what the response would be, but when we did it in April, we had a really overwhelming response. All the walks were sold out and people wanted us to do it again. We weren't sure when we'd do it, but luckily now it's come back bigger and better. Now it's part of a heritage festival and there's so much more around heritage that people can learn about.
Okay. So what exactly is in store for someone who decides to join this walking tour? So what would their experience be like? Just for example, like someone who does not know much about Panjim city, like what it really has as part of its heritage and culture. So what would a person like that really experience on a walking tour like this?
Take that.
So there's multiple subjects you can explore the city of Panjim through. I've had the privilege over the last few years to have walked through Panjim with really knowledgeable people, starting from the beginning of Panjim to the end of it. If you want and if you walk with the right people, it can be an endless walk in terms of facts that these people can tell you about. Starting from the fact that this is the longest promenade in the country, which is 7 kilometers long.
Okay.
And actually there's too much that we can fit into one conversation here. But if you walk with the right people, there's so much, and that's what we've curated for the people that are going to be participating in the walking festival.
Okay.
So to add on to what Hari has said, basically we are covering the entire city. We are covering the historic presence of Fontainhas, Sao Tome and Campal. We are doing nature, wherein we are looking at the tree walk, we are looking at the parks and the medicinal plants. We are also covering central Panjim with a statues and personalities walk and a walk on the Cholta walk, which covers the Menezes Braganza Square. To add on also, we are also covering the outskirts of Panjim, the Raj Bhavan. We have a walk at the Raj Bhavan, we have in Res Magos, we have one in Old Goa. And there are different types of people who will give different perspectives. There's an architectural perspective, there is just a fun perspective. So you have from companies who do these experiences for tourists to architectural historians to enthusiasts to medicinal plant experts to tree walk enthusiasts, all getting together to put this together.
So like you said, Fontainhas is like it's quite a famous tourist destination now. The people all over the country, not even country, international tourists do also come down there to see, like it has a very unique atmosphere there as compared to most parts of the state. So what exactly is so special about the Fontainhas, like these kind of areas that like you all would like to really get out there and communicate like this is what the place actually resembles, or is that heritage is also a part of Goa?
So best thing I would say is you come and experience the walk and then you would know it. But since you're asking me to put it in words, so Fontainhas was basically an area which Panjim became the capital of Goa in 1843, and the first area where people settled was Fontainhas. The name comes from the abundance of springs there, in one particular spring called the Fontainhas, which lies at the end of Fontainhas, which is also a very interesting structure in itself with a tunnel underneath, and it's got a real nice feel to it. What is unique about Fontainhas? It's been a conservation zone since I think 1984. When Fontainhas developed, land was given very haphazardly because people were moving from old Goa into Fontainhas. So people overbuilt, and they were like, so it's got that old world feel to it with its narrow winding lanes, small alleys, everything. And at the same time, it's got there were specific colors which you were supposed to paint your houses as per specific colors. That was basically as per the materials which were available then, but because it gave it such a vibrant hue or a look, then now as per the conservation committee norms you're supposed to paint with that. So it's basically you get a vibe of being in a place which is seen a lot, and it's just a feel that you get which is unique with Fontainhas. With tourism coming in, there has also been a lot of small boutiques, cafes, homestays, heritage hotels which have come up there, and it's got a unique flavor which seems to be in spirit with the times today as a tourism product.
Okay. So even this, like you said earlier, the Campal. So what exactly is so this about Campal that people are not really, I mean, at least from my perspective, I was not very aware that Campal had some major this, but like we had a conversation earlier where you said that it was a well planned sort of planning that was done to bring up that area. So can you just shed some light on what exactly was that?
So basically the area we're in right now where the festival is concentrated is the heritage area of Campal. It's basically 3 lanes with a really beautiful garden in the center named after Francis Louis Combs, whose statue is also there, and a bandstand in the garden. But the houses are all in perfect alignment. If you see, the line out is maintained in each house. Houses go back to over 100 years, and it's got very beautiful roads, well planned roads, trees planted. So it's got a a very peaceful and serene feel to it. So that I would say the unique part of Campal. Then you also have a park which is the children's park by the river. You have the Kala Academy. You have a river just flowing maybe 200 meters from where Campal is. So it's just got a different vibe to it.
So there's a walk also being held along the Campal stretch, right? The medicinal too, where you all showcase different medicinal plants along the way. So what kind of
actually the tree walk and the bird walk is planned in the Campal garden. The medicinal plants walk is in Miramar. So what we would do in the tree walk is the bird walk is we would take you into the only urban forest in Panjim, which is basically which is called the Art Park now, and you would get a look at nature at its best over there.
Okay. So also the Fontainhas Creek, right? You all have also included this as part of your walking tour. So why Fontainhas Creek? I mean, for most now it is known as the Nalla, So why exactly Fontainhas Creek has been included in this walking tour?
So I didn't know until very recently, but it plays a really important role as being a very main stormwater facility, and it also plays a really huge role in terms of irrigating the lands of Talegaon. And it historically, I think it has a lot of context, and precisely like you said, now we don't know the importance of it. So Vishal Rawley, who is an urbanist and does a lot of amazing things, is going to be taking us through the walk, and he'll highlight why the creek is so important.
Okay.
I'd just like to add a little bit, like when you say it's a nalla, the thing is that entire Panjim is a reclaimed land, it's low-lying land. So originally it just consisted of little streams with land banks in between which you went around. And that is very important when you understand Panjim today in the context of climate change, because it's so low-lying, it's prone to flooding, whatever. And the only way to combat that is to have great drainage. So whenever we do the creek here, the Rua di Oreng Creek, other places which drain out, I think I'm not that much of an expert, there's one which drains out next to the Indo Stadium. So if we block this natural, natural flows for the rainwater to go out, sooner eventually we're going to be prone to flooding. As it is, we are getting flooded in the rains, water levels are high. But it becomes critically important now that we take action and realize the importance of this water systems within the city.
Okay. So you all also have a walking tour called Cholta Cholta. So what can you brief us as to what exactly this walking tour will consist of?
Cholta Cholta was started by Preeta Sardesai. She basically used to do these walks for tourists as well as little kids, and it basically covers central Panjim. It starts around the Azad Maidan and covers the main square over there.
Okay. So I'm really sorry, we're going to have to cut short and take a small break in between, and we will join back really soon.
Sure.
Keep watching. Welcome back. You're joining us here with Mr. Hari and Mr. Jack Sukhija, and like we were speaking earlier about different walking tours that are aimed at raising awareness and educating people about the different heritage and the cultural aspects of Panjim and its surrounding areas. So you all also have these food trails, right? So cuisine is important to a community's culture, its heritage and its history of how a community came up with respect to its food. So how exactly are you going to do this food trail, and what exactly is it going to consist of?
So the food trail is a tour run by Soul Traveling. Basically they take you to experience 2-3 different types of local Goan food, traditional food, for lack of a better word, joints. There are cafes, there are bakeries, whatever, and then they give you a history on each one of them. So it starts from somewhere at the post office and ends at the municipal, the Garcia de Horta, which are the municipal gardens.
Okay. Would you like to add on something?
Yeah, there's multiple places that are in Panjim that we all know is really famous. We all know we have to visit them, but Soul Traveling also takes you through the historic relevance of these places, how they came about and how they've survived up until now. So I feel like when you go there to eat, you know a lot more about the place and you appreciate it a lot more once you have this context with you.
And also city signage is also the walking tour that is being organized. So what exactly can one expect in this kind of a tour?
Okay, so Vishal Rawley, who's an urbanist, runs some beautiful initiative called Community Classrooms, does a lot of amazing things. He's curated the walk called City Signages. He basically explains that you can explore a city through the various elements that make up the city. He goes through typography, signages, and even random posters to trace back how every art movement has had its impact in Panjim as well. Nothing is ever isolated. So he traces back these impacts in Goa, and you feel like you can get an insight into what life was like through many periods by looking at these signages.
Okay. So you all have also included, two forts. One is the Raj Bhavan and the Race Magos. So why exactly have these been included in our heritage? Like, what was the mindset behind including these as part of the program, the walking tours?
So we also cover a bit of the outskirts of Panjim. One of the segments we do there are these two forts, as you mentioned. Panjim is the place at which the Mandovi drains flows into the sea. And because it had such a strategic importance, because of that, four forts were built on the mouth of the Mandavi river. One was the Cabo Raj Nivas, which is today known as the Raj Bhavan. One of Gaspardias, which no longer exists, on the Panjim side of the river, and the ones on the Bades side were Reshmagos and the Aguada fort. So the Reshmagos fort has been opened up as a tourist attraction today, and a space for events and other things. And the architect who was involved in the renovation, Gerard Dicuna, very well known architect, will be conducting this tour. So we thought to get a perspective on what is around Panjim, we would include Reshmagos. And Raj Bhavan is of course the seat of power today in Goa. It's where the governor stays, and it was where I think the Portuguese Governor General also used to stay when Panjim became the capital. So it's like I think it's 50 plus acres. I'm not sure of the exact area, but very few people get to see it nowadays. But the previous governor was kind enough to allow visitors once a week, and so now there's a regular tour runs there. So to know everything unique about how the soldiers stayed there, what were the bastions, what were the water systems, what is there today, we thought we would include these two forts to get an idea of what happened.
Like you're speaking about water systems, so fresh water, like any community or civilization that usually pops up really requires a fresh water source, or some sort of drinking water for them to really come up. So how did Panjim really, where did Panjim really acquire its source of water from? Is this going to be also part of the tour, like the springs and those kind of things?
Yeah, so there are basically two springs in Panjim which are very famous. The first area where people settled in Panjim was what came to be known as Fontainhas or Mala, and there's a there's the fountain of Fontainhas there. And there were also a lot of other springs which existed in that area, because of which you could easily hit fresh water. So that will be the water sources of Panjim is one walk. It will be conducted by architect Talula de Silva, and obviously she knows a lot more about what is involved in that and what are the water sources. So she'll give a better brief.
Okay. Would you like to add something on that?
Yeah, Talula has basically studied where these water sources originate and how people have tapped into them over the years.
Okay.
So she adds in a lot of information, and some of these springs are also really visually nice to see. They exist right in the middle of the city. You probably passed by them, but once you get into them, you will be surprised that these have existed right in front of your eyes. So it's a great sight to behold when she takes you through.
Okay. So one of the last tours that you all have is the statues and personalities of Goa. So can you brief us about what this tour will include?
So it's done by Savani Shetty, who is an archaeologist. She starts with Dr. Miguel Diaz statue at the post office. Then she goes on to Dayanand Bandodkar statue, and then she winds her way down to Menezes Braganza Institute and the statue. They're giving a bit of context on each of the roles played by these personalities within that. She, I think, also covers a few personalities like the Mama Kamath house, and the other details I'm not aware. But these 3-4 is done. So it starts from the post office and ends at Menezes Braganza.
Okay. Can you tell something like now personalities and statues are obviously all prominent people who have affected the Goan culture over the years. So can you shed light on one example of the one of the statues or one of the personalities that is being covered in this tour, and what is the significance behind it?
So I'll share on two. Dr. Miguel Caitan Diaz, which is the first statue which is covered, was the first Goan to become Surgeon General in the Portuguese army. He was supposed to be a brilliant public health specialist as well as a doctor, and Goa would get Panjim would get hit periodically by plagues and other epidemics, the COVIDs of those times. So with no such big lockdowns, but there were where you would be quarantined and stuff. But he's supposed to have carried out health programs which eradicated two of them. The other statue is of course of Dayanand Bandodkar, who was the first Chief Minister of Goa. Was basically seen as a hero who uplifted the Bahujan Samaj or the downtrodden masses, and the reason Goa supposedly has a great education system today, or primary education, and so literate, is because of the emphasis they laid on education and the school movement.
Okay. So these walking tours are starting from day one right until the end of the event, right? So how exactly does one join this tour? Does he just show up at the event, or does he have to register or sign up somewhere?
So a festival website will be up shortly. It will be called www.goaheritagefest.com. There is information about each one of these tours. We weren't able to go into depth about information. There will be information about each one of these walks, and there is a registration button there. Each walk is 500 rupees, and once you register, we'll give you details on how you can turn out.
Okay. So it's really nice to see people doing such initiatives and taking effort in pushing and struggling to get our heritage and cultural out there. So what would you really like to tell people as to why they should really come and really experience these walking tours?
So like I said, any city you go, my favorite thing is to just get out and walk the streets, get a feel of it. And there's nothing better than you have an expert who also gives you an opinion about it. So besides being good exercise, it's really intellectually stimulating. You get to see things from a different perspective, and even if you're a local, you learn a lot of things which you never knew about the city, and you'll see it in a new light. So I first did walking tour, which was started by Heta Pandit somewhere in the early 2000s, and then I was like, okay, I've literally grown up walking the streets and I hardly know anything in the context. So from there my fascination developed, and whichever city I go to, whether in India, if there's a heritage tour, my morning always starts with a walking tour of the old city. If you want to know more about how a place developed, are curious about its people, I think it's a great way to do it by walking with a person who has a story to tell.
Hari, would you like to add on something to this?
Literally every nook and corner in Goa has a story, and I think Goa is fascinating in the sense that everyone's documented so much over the years, and it's fairly well documented. So I feel like a lot of people have done the hard work of learning all of this. So if someone's handing me down all the information and stories, I'd love to walk with them and learn more about the place.
Again, I thank you so much for taking the time and coming out and sharing with us what exactly the event, the whole event schedule will take, what is in store for the locals here, and even people who are tourists who will be here in the state. And I really do wish you all the best, and I also urge our viewers to take some time, step out, learn about where we live and what is our culture and heritage. So the event starts on the 15th of November, and please do sign up. The website will be live soon, and I'm pretty sure they will all be enthusiastically waiting for everyone to join their tours. So thank you so much again for coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
And keep watching Goa 365.